Hello everyone, this is Chinmay from Trading Cafe India. Well guys, today we are going to talk about one important topic, and that is how exactly the FIIs and DIIs buying and selling affects our market. And looking at their aggressive buying and selling, what exact idea you can get, and is there any trade opportunity that we can grab for the next day? Let's understand in this video. Now friends, many times I hear from the traders that due to the lack of activity in the FIIs from the markets were completely sideways, or a huge buying activity happened through DI, and that's why markets were going one way up. Again, there was net buying happened from the DI and FI. Well, looking at their combination, looking at their corresponding action, is really market going to give you a nice idea for the next day's trade? And if you know what exactly the cash segment buying, looking at the future buying and overall F&O activity through FIIs and DIIs, how actually it affects the market. Well, let's understand how exactly this buying and selling happens and what actual sense you can get out of it. Now guys, we are tracking the NSE data on the NSE website, where we are actually getting the exact buying and selling activities of FI and DI, that too for a particular day. Now, this particular link I am going to share in the description. But now what we are having at moment, we are here seeing on 1st of October what actual activity happened through FIs. Well, it is nothing but the buy value and sell value. If you are looking at the net buying value, net selling value, you will get the exact data, that is somewhere around 131 CR. Again, what I am having for the DIs, that is the mutual fund. Here I am getting the DI activity for the same day. Net buying happened somewhere around 6093 CR and the selling happened somewhere around 6700 CR. Well, net what I'm getting somewhere around 613 CR in minus. That means the selling happened of somewhere around 600 CR in the entire day. Now you will ask me what exact sense we can get out of it. Well, earlier days when markets were actually dominated by the FIIs, that means the foreign institutes were huge buyers and sellers, and due to their buying and selling activity, market decides its trend. You need to understand, every time when we are talking about the market direction, these particular people, the FIs and DIs, the actual reason of market movement. But again, looking at the data, just because many traders explains and they mentions always that FI activity happened this much, DI activity happened that much, and next day you can get a real sense out of it. Well guys, when looking at their net buying and selling activity, you will get the idea whether it happened in the cash segment or in F&O segment, and looking at those different segment buying and selling, what exact sense we can get out of it. Well, for that I will explain you a basic thing. Now guys, whenever we track this activity of FIs and DIs, we track it based on the cash segments and F&O segment, where you need to understand, before 2016, the FI segment, that is the foreign institutes, were actually dominating the market. Now you know, from 2016 and 17, mutual fund acha, this particular scheme rolled out very well. You need to understand, from that day onwards, most of the people who actually engage with the market, they engage through mutual fund, and because of that, a heavy flow started coming from the DI as well. Well, whenever we are actually looking at the market and markets start going sharply down, what activities you are looking at? Generally, you will find the DIs will start heavily pumping the money at that point. That means what? They're having a very good cash reserve, and whenever market shows you a sharp downfall, they grab this opportunity and they start pulling the market again up. Well, in this COVID scenario also, when the market tumbled down somewhere around 30%, at that time, DIs were the actual net heavy buyers. They pumped the quantity and then the market started showing up move. Well, it never stopped near the 12,000 level from where exactly the Nifty started falling. It actually crossed that level, and somewhere around 18,000 we are standing at moment. You need to understand how much power these days DIs are having. FI is not having any role? Well, they are having. But at this moment, they are not the only one who are giving the direction to the market. So you need to understand how actually that happens. Now guys, we need to understand the basic difference between the FIs buying selling and the DIs buying selling. First thing, FIs having a complete liberty to go for short selling, because if they think the market will go down looking at the global scenario or looking at the XYZ factor, they can start doing the selling activity rapidly. But at the same time, with the DIs or with the specifically mutual fund, they cannot go aggressively selling. That means they cannot short the markets. Well, in this scenario, when the markets have started showing you the down move, what actually DIs are doing? They start doing the FNO activity aggressively. They at moment start doing the shorting the calls, but that too along with the limited range. That means out of 100 quantity, if they want to hedge their quantity, they can hedge somewhere around 20%, and that's why we cannot get a aggressive selling from both FIIs and DIs at the same time. So how exactly that happens? I will explain you. Here, if I'm looking at the FI activity, if I'll get 110 CR buying happen in the cash segment, but at the same time, I see a minus 50 CR activity happen for that day in the FNO segment. What does that mean? Most of the time, you think if I'm having a huge quantity in HDFC Bank and that too in a cash segment, but it is actually the holding for 1 quarter. That means I'm going to hold it for another 3 months, and that is from the FI. And at the same time, if I think for next 2 to 3 days, looking at the market scenario which is not good, market can go heavily down. Same time, HDFC Bank can also go down. Well, at that time, they don't actually pull out everything from the HDFC Bank. Rather, what they do? They start doing the selling activity in the FNO segment. That means they start doing the selling in future. At the same time, they start doing the selling activity in the calls as well. Well, if the markets are going down, if the HDFC Bank is going down, at that time, the FNO segment will start helping them out. That means at one point, they're actually making a little money along with the downside. But for the DIs, they are not allowed to go for shorting the futures heavily. And that's why they also have the shorting position, but they have a limited shorting position in the option segment. If next day, anyone telling you a huge selling happened from the FIs, you need to understand whether it happens in one segment, whether it happens in both cash and FNO, and then looking at their corresponding activity, you can understand it's a net selling that happened. Otherwise, looking at any expert's opinion, a huge selling happened, a huge buying happened, and that's why markets are going up or down. Well, these are just the stat they are talking. It is actually reflecting in the NSE side, but even they don't have any idea whether the markets are going up or down. Think about it. I will show you another data. Now guys, we are tracking Nifty, that is a broader market on a large time frame. I'm talking about the monthly time frame. What we are having, see here, 3 months we are getting a consolidation, and then we are getting a nice breakout, and after that, for complete 2 months, markets were absolutely into the sideways zone. If I'm talking about Nifty, it was hardly into a 300-point range for the entire 2 months. Now, these particular points on price action are very good pointers where we will come to know a huge activity is happening from buyers and sellers, and those who will come out with the winning hand, they will definitely drag the market in their direction. Well, that exactly happened, and then the buyers actually took the charge and they have started pulling the markets upside. Well, in this case, we find the good opportunity on a daily time frame and then we start trading accordingly. Well, when we are talking about the price action, is it exactly backed with the data as well? Let's understand on the FIDI activity, are we getting a nice clue out of it? Now guys, I'm tracking the monthly activity of FIs and DIs where I'm using money control, where there's absolutely no recommendation. You can go any side. I'll refer. If I'm getting a free side, I'm definitely going to use it. At moment, we are using money control. What I'm having at moment, here, you can check this FIs and DIs activity in CR. That means we are going to track where exactly they are doing with respect to cash segment and with respect to FNO segment. First, what I'm having the cash segment open, where I'm looking at the June month and July month. Why we are looking at June and July month? As I explained you on the chart itself, these were the month where the activity was absolutely sideways. That means the market was trading in a very range bound zone. Here, you need to understand, if I'm going to get the next breakout, is it going to give me the early sign looking at the FIs and DIs activity? Let's understand. Here, with this FIs, what I'm having, first looking at the gross purchase and sale and then net. Net means what? Looking at the buying activity and selling activity, whatever net I'm getting. 150 buyers, 100 sellers, net 50 buyers. So that way, net what I'm having, that we are going to see. Check first with the June month. In June month, the FIs were net sellers with 25 CR in cash segment, and if I'm looking at the DI activity, In DIs, I'm getting a net 7,000 CR buying happened with the cash segment. Well, in this case, definitely we are looking at a huge activity along with the DIs. Well, this is not the only case. Now we need to check where in derivative segment, that is in FNO segment, am I getting the strong sense? Well, let's check. Now guys, we are tracking the FNO activity that happened in the June month. First, we'll start with the FIs. What I'm having in FIs, that too in a June month, they were net seller of 4,600 CR. Now let's check what DIs were actively doing. Where I'm actually out of the screen, but it's important to look at the data first. It is in the screen. Here, what I'm getting now, the FIs I'm talking about, they are net buyer of 5,500 CR. Well, net, if I'm talking about, still we are getting somewhere around 1,000 CR buying all across the market, where we were having a 7,000 crore buying in the cash segment, and now what we are having? We are having a 1,000 CR buying in the FNO activity. Well, as in combinedly, we are still getting 8,000 CR buying overall happened. Now, let's go into the July month and understand the data. Now guys, in July month, the market were absolutely sideways, and here the game changed. What I'm having now, in cash segment, along with the FIs, I'm getting net 23,000 selling. At the same time, along with the DIs, I'm getting 18,000 buying. Well, still I'm looking at the 5,000 net selling in the cash segment. Let's understand on the FNO segment now. Now guys, we are tracking the derivative activity, that is FNO activity of FIs and DIs in July month. Now in July month, I'm getting net selling that happened with the FIs, and if I'm looking at the DI activity, they were also not present in the market as a huge buyer. So in combinedly, what I'm having somewhere around 4,500 crore selling in FNO segment. Well, now data crunching is actually a headache, right? Now guys, not everybody likes to do the data crunching. At the same time, if we are not getting it in a simplified manner, we are not getting a huge sense out of it. I will simplify it for you. Now guys, let me explain everything to you in a simplified manner, just whatever we have discussed now. Well, what we are having, this particular 2 months we are talking about, where we are getting a extraordinary squeeze here, and that's why we need to understand what activity happened there. Now, as a buyer, DIs and FIs, what they are doing in June month, in the both segment, that is cash and FNO, combinedly what they have done a buying of somewhere around 8,000 CR. And now, looking at the July month, you will get the exact idea, where the combined activity of FI DI in both segment, cash and FNO, we are getting actually a net selling of 9,270 CR. So, in this particular 2 months, what we are having? We are actually having a selling somewhere around 1,200 CR. That is a minus data. So, the question is, after that 2 months, why I am getting a huge move out of it? So, again, the actual reason behind doing all the exercise and number crunching, you cannot get a strong clue when the markets are going to give you a breakout just by looking at the FI and DI selling buying activity. Well, what is the reason? Let me explain you on the chart itself. Now guys, we are tracking Nifty with respect to volumes. I am having now future chart, where you will get the idea. In this particular 2 months, I was not looking at a huge activity looking at the volume. It was the average month. But I have already explained in one particular video how actually volume works. And if you have not yet seen that video, I will give you the link in the description. You can watch that video. You will get the better idea how actually volume works. Now, what I'm having a consolidation, and then it is actually giving me a clear breakout. Generally what people do, they will see a huge candle and they start getting the reference looking at the volume. It was a breakout along with the volume. It will definitely give me a follow buying. Here you need to understand, in every volume candle, the equivalent buyers and sellers are present. Well, in this particular candle, you cannot say this move actually happened due to the aggressiveness of the buyer or the seller. Well, same with the DI and FI activity. If I'm looking at particularly minus 1200 CR data, I cannot say people are selling there. Maybe they actually started getting into the system early and now they are doing the profit booking. But the corresponding move that I'm getting out of it, it may be happened along with the fresh buyers. And if you're doing the same activity, you can check on the money control. In this particular month, we are getting net buying from the FIs and DIs. And that's why whenever a candle forms, then you start getting the idea. Yes, there were the presence of the FIIs and DIIs as well. Well guys, if anyone telling you end of the day, this much net buying happened, this much net selling happened with respect to FI and DI, well, these are actually available on the Bhav Copy, and Bhav Copy every time updates after the market hours, not in the market hours. And that is why whenever I do daily analysis, I do with respect to options, and that too looking at the selling happen far out of the money. Guys, these are the reliable way to engage with the markets. If anyone telling you data that happened after the market hours, you cannot get the much sense out of it, because it might be the chance that people are buying in the cash and they are hedging in the options. But in a weekly options, people are mostly the sellers and they are getting maximum theta out of it. And that's why this is more relevant data. I hope you must be having a little idea what I'm talking now. You must be getting a sense little out of it. It's a little advanced topic, but it was absolutely necessary because people are doing wrong practices day by day, month by month, and then they start getting frustration. I'm not getting real sense out of it, how market works. Well, again, the motto is not to give you idea the markets are giving you a clear gambling, but these are the pure logics that you need to apply. And if you want to apply the logic, start with the price action. This actually gives you more sense rather giving you anything looking at the data with the FIIs, DIIs or the bottom volumes. And that's why I don't prefer much looking at the indicators or looking at any other data. I hope you're getting much clear sense now. Again, it's a valuable content. If you want to repeat this video, you can repeat the video once, twice or thrice. And if you're getting a little sense out of it, do let me know in the comment box. And if you are still finding the difficulty, I will still give you the more explanation in the next video. I hope this particular video is valuable content for you. If you are liking the video, like this particular video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And again, thanks for watching.